Hi everyone, comedy films. This is your buddy Mike Messier. Welcome to subscribe to Mike Messier YouTube channel. Today me and my friend Karl, and I are going to discuss our 10 personal favorite comedy films. And Karl and I have done a horror film list before, but this time we're doing comedies. And Karl, just as a disclaimer, this is not based on box office receipts or lasting film greatness on anyone else's list. As far as I see this, this is just you and I sharing our personal favorites, and maybe we'll share some movies that people haven't seen before. How you feeling today, Karl?
Good, good.
Good,
Definitely
man.
remember that.
And Karl, you're calling today. We're talking to you. You're in the Midwest area of the USA, right, Karl?
Yeah,
Nice. Okay, buddy. So what we're going to do is we're going to take turns. We're going to start with we're going to go in this increasing order, I guess. We're going to start with 10, 9, and 8. So Karl, if you want to share your 10, 9, and 8 position picks for your best comedy films,
sure.
start us off.
I'm gonna go with the Dread Outdoors.
That's a great pick. John Candy, Dan Aykroyd, great pick. Nice work. What do you like about that movie, buddy?
A great casting, great movie, and it's filmed outdoors.
Yeah, and the bear, even the bear scene, and
Oh yeah,
there's one of those inside Hollywood, moments where apparently if you watch the bear attacking the family closely enough, you can see a trainer's stick of some kind in the film. But it was one of those YouTube videos or something. I saw that you had to really pick it apart. But John Candy and Dan Aykroyd, I mean, guys, what comedy pedigrees. Dan Aykroyd, who will be seen later on my list. Was a Saturday Night Live original, and John Candy from Second City Television. And those guys had a real chemistry. Too bad we didn't get to see them work together again, as far as I know. But great guys and a great film, The Great Outdoors. I think that came out in 1986 or 87, Karl.
yeah.
And okay, moving on. What's your number 9 pick?
My cousin Vinny.
Hey, another great choice, I believe. I could be
Yeah.
wrong. Marissa Tomei, I think she won Best Supporting Actress or was at least nominated for Best Supporting Actress for My Cousin Vinny. I'm going off the top of my head, folks. I believe that movie came out in 1992, but of course Joe Pesci, and I believe that movie wasn't it Ralph Macchio from The Karate Kid? Wasn't he in that?
Yeah.
Yeah, very good film. And of course, was it Fred Gwynn was his name? The guy that played the Herman Munster. He played the judge.
Yeah.
The Utes, the Utes in my courtroom. Great pick,
Yeah.
Karl. I'm impressed, man. What's your number 8 pick
Oh, I love this one. Bachelor Party. Well, the first one.
with Tom Hanks?
Yeah.
And the lead female, if I'm not mistaken, was Tawny Katane, who would go on to fame and or around the same time be in that music video, I believe, for her boyfriend David Copperfield. Trying to remember the name of that music video, but it was just it was like a song you would play in your car and rev the engine fast. And Tawny Katane is doing splits on top of the car. Here I go again on my own. And Tawny Katane, gorgeous woman. I could be wrong, but I think she passed away recently. I could be wrong. Hope I am. But Tom Hanks, that was really one of his first star vehicles after doing the sitcom Bosom Buddies. Great picks, Karl. I'm really impressed, man. Anything else you want to say about those 3 picks before we move on to my first three picks?
Um. Oh, also Michael Dudikoff was actually in Bachelor Party. If you
Oh,
don't even know.
okay. Fair enough. Fair
Yeah.
enough. And it was a fun movie. I mean, if people haven't seen kind of the young Tom Hanks before he became, Mr. Nobility in every role he did, but if you see a young Tom Hanks is just having a lot of fun. Him and Michael Keaton are 2 actors that I really do feel like they are 2 of the best actors of that generation. They kind of have the same
Yeah.
type of vibe. So I'll give you my first three, Carl. Number
Sure.
10, I have, um, and this is only for the original, not for the sequels, which I think were a little less than the original. The Hangover, 2009.
Oh
We've got
yeah.
a great film, and it was a movie, to me at least, that kind of, at least for that period, I don't want to overblow it, but it was kind of like, okay, the fun comedy is back. The fun comedy with some, outlandish humor or edgy humor. Bradley Cooper, Ed Helms, who I've become more interested in as I continue to watch The Office. A friend of mine, when I told him I've been watching a lot of The Office lately, he said that's the most Caucasian thing I ever said. But Ed Helms, Bradley Cooper, Zach Galifianakis, if I said his name right, and I guess the fourth guy was Justin Dartha, which I think has had the least big success of the four afterwards. And Heather Graham, great, gorgeous woman. Of course, she's in this thing as the single mom stripper type. And I just thought the original Hangover was a hell of a lot of fun. Did you ever see that one, Carl?
Yeah.
And did you enjoy it?
Yeah, I did.
Good. Well, I got the Hangover. Once again, I don't put the sequels. I believe they did Hangover 2 and 3, and they did not make my list, spoiler alert. But number 9 for me, I think this is going to catch a lot of people off guard, and I'm going to guess. By the way, I've got the subscribe to Mike Messier YouTube channel hat on today, and I do encourage people to subscribe to Mike Messier YouTube channel. In fact, Carl, the name of the actual channel here is Subscribe to Mike Messier YouTube channel. Number 9, I've got The Sweetest Thing. Cameron Diaz, Christina Applegate, and Selma Blair. The movie's kind of, it's marketed as kind of a romantic comedy, but the reality, I see it more as a girls' road trip movie. Like, kind of, if you had something like The Hangover for women, with Christina Applegate and Cameron Diaz playing. I think they're either best friends or sisters even, and Selma Blair has a real strong third spot in this thing, and she has a really provocative comedic scene in the film, which involves humming. I'll put it that way. Have you ever seen or heard of this movie, The Sweetest Thing, Carl?
Oh yeah.
Hey,
Yeah,
do you
yeah.
like it? Yeah.
Yeah, it was good.
It's really good, and I think it's just a movie that people. I caught it on cable TV late night, and I didn't see it in the theater, and I think because the way the movie was promoted as more of a syrupy Cameron Diaz, romantic comedy thing, that she's looking for this guy whose brother is getting married. I think it's played by Justin Bateman. And also because the movie came out in 2002, we were still trying to recover from the 9/11 situation, so people may not have been into movies as much or comedies as much. But I just
Yeah.
think it's a fun road trip, and people. I think Christina Applegate is an actress, possibly because of her iconic role as Kelly Bundy on Married with Children and her great looks. Quite frankly, I think a lot of people underestimate her talent and her poise, her humor. I think Christina Applegate of the last 30 years is one of the better actresses or actors for comedy, and I think she's underrated. And I think, once again, Selma Blair maybe didn't hit the iconic spots as either Christina or Cameron, but I think Selma Blair more than holds her own in this movie. And it's just a lot of fun. It's a different type of movie. It takes some chances. I don't know. I guess it has moments of raunchiness, which you don't see with women comedic actors as much, and I think that's good. And I like the movie. So the next movie on my list, I'm going to dig into the dark regions of everyone's brain, and this is called Amazon Women on the Moon. And this this movie is kind of a collection of skits. Like, if you had like kind of a Kids in the Hall, Saturday Night Live, type of series of skits that are loosely held together. And some of the biggest names of the mid 80s and late 80s: Arsenio Hall, Rosanna Arquette. I believe Steve Gutenberg's in this thing for a scene with Rosanna Arquette where they're doing a dating app, or a dating, not even an app at the time, but just a dating computer has hooked these people up. Amazon Women on the Moon, it tends to falter towards the end of the movie. I will say that. But there are just some segments in this film that I would really recommend to people. Have you ever seen or heard of this movie, Carl?
No, 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 I haven't.
Well, it's like I said, it's from 1987, and I first got wind of this movie as a teenager. Several years after it came out, and me and my friends would just sit around and laugh at this movie, laugh with this movie, I should say. And like I said, there's kind of a overriding plot of a kind of a 1950s space movie called Amazon Women on the Moon, and what you see during the film is kind of like a film within a film. You see like all these commercials and skits surrounding this black and white spoof of a sci-fi movie. So it's a unique way of telling a story, and it's kind of like many movies or many skits within a movie. Like I said, it's kind of like a higher end version of an SNL. And so, Carl, now we're going to shoot back to you, buddy. We're going to go to your. Um, we're going to go to 7, 6, and 5. So, what have you got in your number 7 spot, Carl?
All right. Well, the first Ace Ventura. I mean, nothing could like beat that, right?
That's great, man. I mean, it's number 7, but it's a strong number 7. I'll say that. Ace Ventura. Tell me about like when you. Is this the first you saw of Jim Carrey, or had you known about him before?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I assume it's like, well, I mean, Earth Girls are usually like some of his older movies.
Yeah, man.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah, and Ace Ventura, and you Pet Detective, and then you had his early mid '90s was just so strong with The Mask and all types of wonderful things. And so, what have you got next? That was your number 7. So, what's your number 6?
Oh, Tropic Thunder.
A great pick.
Yeah.
And the movie is, to me, it's frustrating, Carl, because I actually wanted to go. Just a sob story, but I went to go see the cinema, go see a movie with some friends at the time that came out, and there was a dispute with me and the other people of which movie to see. And we ended up, I wanted to see Tropic Thunder, and for whatever reason, the Pineapple Express is what we saw instead, which I did not particularly care for. I thought it was okay, but the whole time we're sitting there watching Pineapple Express, I'm getting itchy to get out of that theater and go see Tropic Thunder. And guess what? I've never seen in its entirety Tropic Thunder, so that's something I better go see, or I guess now I just have to watch it at home. But I know that in recent years there's been controversy because I don't quite understand why, but Robert Downey Jr. was playing an actor who's known for doing African American roles, and it's pure parody. They're actually making fun of that situation, but for some reason, humor gets lost with time, and people have given Robert Downey Jr. a lot of slack, and I don't understand that people don't realize that they were actually making fun of Hollywood with that portrayal, not being that portrayal. You know what I'm talking about, Carl?
Oh yeah, yeah. I know what you mean. It's like, yeah, a lot of the stuff you can't even like do that now, dude. Right?
Yeah, I think what we're overdue for, to be honest, is just some movie or TV show like a Chappelle show for 2021, or even subscribe to Mike Messier YouTube channel presenting Schtick Man, something that just pushes all the boundaries and insults everybody, and we just have to get over ourselves because this cancel
Yeah.
culture, and I'm not for people just being mean or degrading to other people either, but there has to be a balance, and you have to let, like Jamie Foxx said on the Joe Rogan show, you got to let the comedians be funny, because the politicians are the ones you got to look out for, and the world leaders. Anyway, I'll get off my soapbox, Carl. What was that? Your number 7 pick? Was that it?
Yeah.
Okay, so what's your
Yeah.
number 6?
Deadpool.
Okay, so that's another movie. You got me back to back, buddy. I haven't seen that one either. And was that Ryan Reynolds? Is that correct?
Yeah.
And so Deadpool is kind of a nice hybrid of a superhero movie and comedy. But for whatever reason, be honest, I don't think I've seen Deadpool either. So I guess I'm going to upset, Johnny Z from New York and CG and some of the other regular subscribers here that I haven't seen Deadpool. But what do you like about it, Carl?
Oh, it's like, fantastic movie, like great. Well, it has some action, but I tell you, the first two Deadpools are worth seeing. But I mean, while it's rated R for us, and while you can't even bring a little kid to go see that.
Yeah, I hear you, buddy. And so I think that was your number 6, right? So
Yeah.
okay, so we'll go back to me for my. Um, oh man, I'm getting my math. Say my actually give us your number 5, Carl. I'm trying to do my math here. Sorry, everybody. What's your number 5
Uh,
pick?
I'm gonna go with Super Bad.
That's a great choice. Oh my God.
Yeah.
And that launched Jonah Hill and who was the other actor that became a big deal from that?
Oh, Michael Sarah.
You got it. Its name is Michael Cera. Thanks, man. And
Yeah.
the female actresses that kind of had the secondary, the girlfriend roles were big, and then you had was it McLovin?
Yeah. I was like,
McLovin was a classic. I mean, McLovin with his name spelled wrong, and that's just like his whole name is McLovin, and just that's another movie, kind of like I want to say The Hangover, where it's like guys on an adventure, and same thing with Sweetest Thing, although it's the females on an adventure. But I mean, there's just
yeah,
friendship and wacky stuff, and
yeah,
I'll give you credit for Superbad. That's not on my list, but I'm going to give you a lot of props for that. And so we'll go back to my list, and now we're at 7,
yeah,
6, and 5 for me. 7, Austin Powers. Maybe that's going to be on your list later on, but I have that in the number 7 spot, the original Austin
yeah.
Powers.
Oh
Once
yeah,
again,
like,
yep, Austin Powers for me is number 7. You have unbelievably beautiful woman at the time, still is actually, still an Instagram favorite, Elizabeth Hurley, as the British love interest, Austin Powers. You've got that one did not. That one had the guy with the finger to the mouth. But going back to 1997, funny because I can remember seeing that movie. I was a young man, a young kid, and I saw that, and then I saw The Fifth Element back to back the same day. So talk about two contrasting movies. The Fifth Element with Bruce Willis. That's a sci-fi movie, but I just said I saw that and I saw Austin Powers in the same day. Great day for the movies for me and a buddy of mine at the time. If he's still out there, a gentleman named Sandy who wrestled as John 316. Good guy. But Austin Powers, to me, the music, I think it's Burt Bacharach has a song in there. And the sequels had a declining return. Um, if they did a fourth Austin Powers movie now, it might be well received. But it was just one of those things where the director Jay Roach, who I've actually auditioned for myself for an HBO pilot, candidate 2012, as chronicled in Rejected by Reality, on the Mike Messier, subscribe to Mike Messier YouTube channel. But Austin Powers for me was just a fun movie, and it's held up over the years. And what did you think of Austin Powers there, Carl?
oh, good. Yeah, great film.
Yep. So
Very
credit.
funny movie.
Oh yeah, credit to Jay Roach, the director. Number 6 for me. This is going to be a surprise, and I'm not offended if you haven't heard of it, Carl, or others haven't. But I liked it, and it's a movie that I was a little. I put it on this list, but it's not like a. It may not be as funny in the strictest sense because it's kind of a serial comic movie, but it's called Breaking Away. And the movie goes way back to 1979. And I'm just using my phone now to get some of the names because this thing was a star-studded affair. We had Dennis Quaid as Mike. We have Daniel Stern as Cyril. Jakey Earl Haley as Moocher. He was from the Bad News Bears, and he would also play Freddy Krueger in the Nightmare on Elm Street remake, I believe. Dennis Christopher played Dave. Paul Dooley was the dad. Barbara Barry. Robin Douglas, Catherine, love interest. Oh my goodness, just a great movie. And what Breaking Away is about, to me, it's four guys living in Bloomington, Indiana. They're just graduated from high school. They're from the working class part of town. They're called cutters because most of their parents worked in the quarry, and they feud with the Indiana University um, college boys. So it's kind of a movie about class differences, friendships. Uh, I just can't recommend this movie enough because bicycling, which is just something that's interesting because one of the lead characters has created this whole fantasy world in his head where he's a French bicyclist, I believe, Italian bicyclist. I'm sorry, and it's just a wild movie. Not wild, but just it means a lot to me. So I think if people check out this movie, maybe they've never heard of it before, maybe they have. You'll definitely see some familiar faces, Dennis Quaid and others. Have you ever heard of Breaking Away or seen it, Carl?
No, no.
Well, I
Alright.
think I recommend it, buddy. And if anything that can come from this list, uh, I recommend that movie, Breaking Away. So now I guess I'll go to my number five pick on my top 10 here. And this is going to be something that probably a lot of people would have as their number one, Carl. So I wouldn't be surprised. But if it's on your list, maybe it will be, maybe it won't. Ferris Bueller's Day Off. That's a strong number five for me. I almost had that
Yeah.
at number two. But Ferris Bueller's Day Off, it's a movie I've seen many times in my life. It's one of these movies. I was even going to do a thing where I listed like the factors that go into making this list, and one of the factors is quotability. And if there's ever a movie, life moves pretty fast. If you don't stop and see what's going on once in a while, you might miss it, or whatever Ferris Bueller says. And Jennifer Grey is the sister. Pre-nose job, Jennifer really should have kept her own nose. She very distinctive face, and then she kind of botched herself with a plastic surgery she didn't need. Sorry to say, in my opinion. Charlie Sheen has a cameo as kind of this tough guy who romances Ferris's sister. The only cast member that we can really talk bad about, I guess, is Rooney, the principal, has had some off-screen situations, but was her name Edie? Edith, the woman that played the principal's assistant, is hilarious.
Yeah.
The parents of Ferris do great in their spots. The guy at the Chicago restaurant when he's the sausage king of Chicago.
Oh,
Uh,
yeah.
I mean, I'm just going by, but I have to say that this movie was a re-release in 2021 in the summer, and when I went to see it, it was at capacity for the social distancing because people love Ferris Bueller, and I saw people taking their kids to this movie. Their kids had probably never seen it, and people that were probably kids when it came out, now they're adults and they're taking their kids to see Ferris Bueller. I believe it came out in the summer of '86. What are your thoughts on Ferris Bueller there, Carl?
Oh, fantastic comedy movie, dude. One of my favorites.
Nice. And
Yeah.
one of the most gorgeous women in the of cinematic times is Simone. I forget the lady's name, but I believe she was in Time Cop as well with John Claude Van Damme. But
Yeah.
unbelievably gorgeous, and just she has a great line when she says to Rooney, "I want to thank you, Mr. Rooney, for your warmth and compassion." So I mean, she's unbelievably great in this movie. Simone is, as I mean, of course, she doesn't look like she's a high school girl. She looks like she's 22 or 25 in the film. But who cares? It's cinema. And let's move on. Going back to you, Carl. So I think we left with your number five pick. Is that right?
Yeah.
So now let's do your four and your three.
All right.
Don't start with your number four pick.
Sure. Probably gonna go with the classic Beetlejuice.
Ah, Man, you got a
Yeah,
great list, buddy. Michael Keaton.
yeah.
I'm glad that Michael Keaton. I mentioned Tom Hanks earlier, but Michael Keaton, played Batman and Beetlejuice. What an icon! Talk to me about Beetlejuice, there, buddy.
Oh yeah, one of my favorites. I would recommend like seeing it. Yeah, I don't know if they're gonna do a sequel or not. They're still like working on a sequel. Yeah, because I tell you, nothing could beat that movie, dude.
No, Beetlejuice is great. Winona Ryder. I believe the lady's name was Catherine O'Hara, the Canadian once again. That SCTV, Catherine O'Hara, John Candy. I'm glad that Catherine O'Hara made our list. A movie that's not on my list today, Home Alone, but I believe Catherine O'Hara played the mom in that. But she is just among heroes. She's a hero of comedy, and even at Epcot Center, there's a movie of Canada, and I believe Catherine O'Hara and Eugene Levy do the voiceovers for that. So Catherine O'Hara, if you happen to be watching this somehow, or if any friends of Catherine O'Hara say Mike Messier gave her a shout out because I'm a big fan of her work. And so that was your number 4 pick,
Yeah,
and Beetlejuice classic, Winona Ryder. The song, they have a big song at the end of the movie where she's dancing around, and a movie that kind of mixed comedy and I guess you'd call it fantasy or surrealism. There was a movie a couple of years after that one that really stunk. That was a knockoff of Beetlejuice. Do you know what I'm talking about, Carl? You know what I'm talking about?
man, no, no.
It was a bad movie. It wasn't very well received, and it was clearly a Beetlejuice ripoff. But let's go back to your number 4 pick. What's your number 4?
All right,
I'm sorry. Yeah, go for your number 4. Go ahead.
Surf Ninjas.
Okay, Surf. Oh, I'm sorry. So that might be your number 3. You just gave us your number
Yeah,
4 was Beetlejuice, and Surf
yeah.
Ninjas. I'm going to write that down, Carl. Surf Ninjas. I don't know much about it. Tell me about it.
Well, it's yeah, it's comedy mixed with action. Yeah, Ralph Snyder's in it. I'm trying to think who else. Yeah. Oh, Leslie Nielsen, dude.
Leslie Nielsen. 1993. Surf Ninjas. This is crazy. I feel like I'm having a Mandela effect because it looks like this movie was pretty successful. Director Neil Israel, New Line Cinema.
Yeah,
And yet I did not see it. You got Rob Schneider, Leslie Nielsen, Ernie Reyes Jr. Looks like a fun movie. Surfs Up, Time to Save the World, of course. So
yeah,
I'm gonna have to check that out. It's an hour and 27 minutes. It kind of reminds me, just by looking at it, just a tinge of the Goonies, which did not make my list, and I think it's
yeah,
because I was just someone who did not have a initial Goonies experience. But it's funny because even doing this list of 20 films, 10 from Carl and 10 from myself, your mind just kind of pops in with other movies. But okay, so we'll go. That's your 4 and 3, Beetlejuice and
yeah,
Surf Ninjas. I will shoot back to me for my 4 and 3.
yeah,
4 is a movie that probably a lot of people have heard of or seen or both. Stripes, Bill Murray, and I want to give credit to the gentleman because it's funny because I don't have Ghostbusters on my list either, but Stripes is a movie that I do have on my list. Bill Murray, Harold Ramis, director Ivan Reitman, music by Elmer Bernstein. This movie came out in 1981, 2 hours and 6 minutes. I mean, epic long movie for a comedy. I mean, for a comedy to be 2 hours and 6 minutes. You've got the beautiful Sean Young in this thing. You've got John Candy once again. Great to see John Candy. John
yeah,
Larroquette. John Larroquette's in this film. Um, have you seen Stripes, Carl?
yeah, yeah. I have. I like the whole thing.
It's interesting that just on IMDb, I saw a
Yeah,
little blurb that Bill Murray insisted that Harold Ramis be cast as his friend. They had great chemistry. The guys in the barracks, when they're in boot camp, and all the hijinks that they get in the military, and even the opening of the movie when Judge Reinhold's in this movie. I forgot about him being in it. I mean, it's another movie where you can watch it a million times, and you'll always see someone different, another Hollywood heavyweight, who went on to great things. Now, buddy, I'm going to really give a shocking pick that I'm going to predict that most people have not seen, and people might say, "Mike, where did you come up with this one?" And I'm just going to get the information because it's a movie that I like. 1985, Fraternity Vacation. Have you ever heard of this movie?
Oh no, no.
Well, Fraternity Vacation is a movie. Wendell Tevet is a geek. He's a nerd, and he goes to college, I believe in Wisconsin. Uh, and the reason why he's being kind of initiated into a college fraternity is because his family has money. And Stephen Jeffries plays Wendell Tevet, and I believe Stephen Jeffries was in Fright Night and some other things at that time frame. And basically, these frat guys are willing to put up with Wendell because he's a nerd, he's a geek, but they want his parents to buy them a new jacuzzi for the frat house. Tim Robbins plays Larry Mother Tucker in this thing. Matt McCoy. Lee McCloskey are kind of the bad guys. Cameron Dye plays Joe. Sherry J. Wilson is the love interest. And there's a side story. There's also some great comedic actors in this movie. Fraternity Vacation, 1985. A guy I think people have seen in the Police Academy movies, John Vernon as Chief Ferret. I believe he was in a lot of the Police Academy movies. Amanda Burse, who we all remember from Married with Children, she played Marcy from Next Door. Steve and Marcy Darcy. Amanda Bierce is in this movie as a rich girl who I believe is the daughter of the chief, and they go to Florida for spring vacation, and hijinks ensue. So I mean, it's just a movie that I took fun in. And when I actually met Tim Robbins once upon a time, Karl, and I mentioned this movie to him, and his face was in shock that anyone knew anything about that movie. But Fraternity Vacation to me is a movie that doesn't get the love that it deserves. And hopefully at the number 3 spot for me, people will take notice. Okay, Karl, so now we're going to go to your number 2. Just give me your number 2 pick. This was the one that was almost your personal favorite, not quite, but what's your number 2?
Kung Fu Hustle.
Kung Fu Hustle. Okay. I've heard of that movie, but I don't think I've seen it. It's a kind of a martial arts parody movie, right?
Yeah. It's comedy. Yeah, I mean, you could choose. You could watch it in Mandarin Chinese or English dubbed. So yeah, if you get like a DVD of it, you could watch like both ways.
2004 when the movie came out.
Yeah, 2004, 2005. Yeah.
Nice. Stephen Chow was a writer on this. Director Stephen Chow. Stars Stephen Chow. I've got to see this movie because it passed me by. And that's one of the fun things about doing a show like this with my buddy Karl here, folks, is that, there are
Yeah.
movies, there are so many movies that come out, and sometimes if you don't see something initially, it might pass by your radar. And this one looks great. Anything else you want to say about your number 2 pick before we move on?
Great. Yeah, great. Yeah, I would recommend. Yeah, it's worth seeing.
Okay, sounds good. I like it. Kung Fu Hustle at number 2. And so then we'll go to me for my number 2 pick. And I'm going to
Yeah.
go with a classic. I'm kind of hoping, Karl, and I just want to see if you and I both pick totally different top tens, because for the most part, I think you've chosen a great list, and most of the movies you've picked I've seen, but not all of them. And Kung Fu Hustle is being one of those that I haven't seen. Number 2 for me, I'm going to go with Animal House. And Animal House, I want to get the year right. But Animal House, another, John Belushi, Kevin Bacon as a bad guy.
Oh yeah.
National
Yeah.
Lampoon's Animal House is actually the full title. National Lampoon's Animal House. The movie came out in 1968, but it takes place in 1962, which is always kind of interesting that even in the 70s, the 60s were still kind of being nostalgia-sized. Karen Allen plays Katie. Karen Allen was in so many movies at that time. Tom Hulce as Larry Kroger. Stephen Furst, Belushi, Mary Louise Weller. Um, Another star-studded thing. Kevin Bacon, as I said. Um, Tim Matheson is in this movie.
Yeah.
Bruce McGill, Donald Sutherland. I guess this movie. It's funny because as I look up uh, Animal House, I see a bunch of other movies of that time period, and all these movies could have easily been on my list. Two of them that come up that are not on my top 10 are Caddyshack and National Lampoon's Vacation. Uh, and I did want to give a special shout out to a couple of movies that I didn't put on this list because they were not comedy narratives, they were comedy concerts. Eddie Murphy Raw and Richard Pryor Live at the Sunset Strip were both.
Yeah.
Uh, I want to stick to comedy narrative films for my list, and if I ever do another one with you, Carl, maybe we'll do a comedy concerts or something. But Animal House, have you ever seen it, Carl?
Yeah, yeah. I actually got it on DVD.
Nice.
Yeah, yeah, one of my favorites.
It's just it's a fun movie, and it's a movie that
Yeah.
always gets mentioned on these lists. And I had it at a strong number two. Uh, it's interesting. I'll wait to my number one pick. But now, Carl, we're going to shoot to you for your number one pick, your personal favorite best comedy. Let's hear it, buddy.
Oh, all right. Oh, I'm gonna go. Oh man, I tell you, I'm gonna go with the first Caddyshack.
Okay, I'm glad that it
Yeah,
made the list. I'm glad it made the list. What that was your number one pick all along, right?
yeah, yeah,
Yeah, it's good because I just mentioned it as something that it slipped my mind. I'm glad you've got it. You've got your Chevy Chase, you've got your Ted Knight, Bill Murray, Rodney Dangerfield. Um, I actually met a guy once who played like one of the younger sons of the rich guy or something in that movie. But tell me more about Caddyshack and why you like it so much, Carl.
Oh, probably the freaking pool scene, dude, where the girl throws the bear fruit, dude. And what happens is, yeah, this little girl says, yeah, it's like duty, yeah. And someone's like, and they're all getting out of the pool, and someone fall.
It's a cool movie, man, and just Bill
Yeah,
Murray and that gopher. I mean, that's the thing, folks, where people. I got to be honest. The last 15 or 20 years, maybe since the mid 2000s, that a lot of concentration on big budget movies with CGI and things like they did two Incredible Hulk variants, and it just seems like a lot of attention's gone into the CGI quality for films, but I think when you had something as simple as this puppet gopher and Bill Murray, playing with this puppet gopher, or even, things like the Muppets, things that are what they call in the film world practical, meaning that they're done in front of the camera and not in the editing room. I tend to think that those are more organic, whether it's drama, comedy, horror. Um, and so I would just say that Caddyshack is a reminder of that. I mean, Bill Murray and a puppet gopher is comedy gold. And so I like your number one pick, Carl. Um, Anything you
yeah.
want to say? And before we, because I'll go to my number one pick, but before we do, any honorable mentions, things that didn't make your list, any movies that came to your mind as we were doing this, or any further thoughts on your 1 through 10 before we move on?
Yeah, I'm gonna go with Blazing Saddle, dude. That and Silver Street, Gene
Yeah,
Wilder and Richard Pryor.
yeah. As far as honorable nominations, I mean, either one of those could have been a number one or a top five or whatever. Blazing Saddles, Silver Streak with Pryor and Gene Wilder, and Airplane didn't make either one of our lists.
Yeah.
So many. That's the thing with these top 10 lists. It's really about personal favorite. And if you
Yep.
contacted either one of us 6 months or a year from now, Spaceballs was the one that just came to mind that we didn't have. But Spaceball, not one of my favorites, obviously, because it didn't make the top 10, but something that a lot of people like. And but gosh, Carl, I mean, you talk about even Richard Pryor, John Candy, Aykroyd, Belushi while we still had him, Chevy Chase. I mean, a movie like Funny Farm, a lot of people like the movie Funny Farm. A lot of people, and I know the last 10 or 15 years, there's been a lot of other great comedies too. The whole Seth Rogen gang. I mean, they do a lot of good stuff. So
Yeah.
can't take it away from anybody. There's a lot of funny stuff out there, and sometimes it really is just what strikes your mood that day. But Carl, I'm going to get to my number one pick, and I'm going to ask you, just for the fun and the giggle, and maybe the audience wants to play along. Carl, do you want to predict what my number one pick is? A prediction on you predict what my number pick will be.
Oh man, I don't know about that. Um, I don't know. So, what's your choice, Mike?
Okay, I'm going to go with the Blues Brothers. I
Oh
am
yeah,
I'm going with the Blues Brothers, and I just realized as we were talking a little bit that I have the same actor is a major part of number one and number two, and that's a guy, John Belushi, who I did not realize he was going to be 1978 Animal House, and then 1980. He was at the top of his game with
yeah,
coming off of Saturday Night Live. Him and Dan Aykroyd were good friends. John Belushi is Juliet Jake. Dan Aykroyd is Elwood. You've got your Cab Calloway. Oh my goodness, I can't believe it. John Candy. I think this is the third time at least we mentioned John Candy in a movie here.
yeah,
Um, just Frank Oz is the corrections officer. You've got Donald Dunn. You've got James Brown in this movie. You've got Shaka Khan's in the movie. You've got Aretha Franklin, R-E-S-P-C-T. Carrie
yeah,
Fisher's in the movie. Just as a side note, because I saw Aretha Franklin, there's going to be a movie with Jennifer Hudson playing Aretha Franklin, and I saw the trailer for that. It looks great. Another movie that just popped up that could have easily been on this list was Trading Places. Um, Ghostbusters, neither one of us had. I mean, unbelievable.
yeah,
Planes, Trains, and Automobiles, neither one of us had. Beverly Hills Cop, neither one of us had.
yeah,
The Naked Gun. I mean, it's really not even fair. The Naked Gun. Um, how many great movies there are? We could have a top 50 list, but Trading Places was really a great one. But going back to my number one
yeah,
pick, I like the music. I like the friendship between Jake and Elwood. Me and my buddy in kind of middle school and high school kind of would play our own. We would have our mentality that we were our own little blues brothers in our own world, and we would do stuff. And Jake and Elwood, to me, are iconic guys with their suits. The penguin. They talk about the the school, the penguin with the ruler. Um, just the for see, I'm not a big musical guy, Carl, but for some reason this musical comedy thing works because the music really just comes every once in a while.
yep,
It's not overbearing. I guess what I don't like about some musicals is that it seems like the scenes are servicing the music rather than the music servicing the scenes. And I feel like the Blues Brothers, the story and the comedy comes first, and the action and the quest. I mean, you've seen those posters in college rooms of we've got a pack of cigarettes and blah 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 and sunglasses, and it's we got